thank you very much for inviting me. Everyone can hear me, hopefully? Okay, so, yeah, me and Adrian, my manager at the time, were in Newcastle. We revealed something, which I'll talk a bit about later. But as Herb talked about, my thing is about perceptive media. And the origins of this all comes from oral storytelling. And what do I know about oral storytelling? Because is this a new thing? Is this an old thing? What's this all about? So it's an old thing. It goes way back. It goes way, way past. So when we think about storytelling, we think about stuff like, obviously, digital, broadcast, and publishing. But before that, there was this time when someone, like now, stands up on maybe at a campfire or in a village and tells a story, yeah? And that's been going on for decades, not decades, centuries and centuries, you know, way before publishing and broadcasting. And we've kind of forgotten about it. So now, you know, we've grown up in a world where, you know, when you see something, that's the one thing, and everyone else sees the same thing. And that's what we expect. It doesn't have to be like that. So that when the person was at the campfire telling the story, they would be quite engaging, because they would be looking at the faces of the people. They would be aware of the context, be aware of all the other stuff that goes around, and they would slightly change the story to fit with the audience. So if the person starts to nod off or doesn't look scared enough, then, you know, you'd make it more scary. You know, you've all been at a campfire where someone's telling a ghost story and they're looking at you and they're thinking, right, this is not scary. I really need to scare the living daylight out of them. Yeah. So how we're doing this? So it all hinges on this big bet that BBC R&D has. It's called object-based media. And Martin Bryan actually wrote, the BBC is building a future of TV by blowing it up into little bits. Yeah, we are, kind of. I mean, I don't really like the idea of just TV. It's media, because it can apply to many different things. Because lots of people are asking about VR and stuff like that. Yeah, that could work to VR as well. So it works by breaking all these pieces all this media into pieces, and then reassemble them. So, you know, the same way as Lego works, right? You get a bucket of Lego, and then you can make these different experiences or these different things out of it. And the key thing about it is that we're able to do this, you know, we've got a very effective way of doing this. So it works because you can also have variables within it. So not only is it just piece all the pieces together, you can start to make variables, and variables can be based on many different things. So based on context, for example, context, location, environment. So some of the examples I'll talk about in a minute will be based on some of this stuff. But it's all on rails. There's still someone directing it. Now, we could explore it being completely, you know, kind of generative. That's an option, but we're very interested in a director being involved. We still want it to be a creative process. So ultimately, we think that media has so much more potential, and we're not even exploring it. We're very focused on broadcast and this one story and all that. Well, we've completely forgot about oral storytelling. Why? So how many of you, I'm going to do some hands here. When you're watching TV, if you watch TV, how many of you treat it like wallpaper? You're doing something else at the same time. Hands up. That is pretty much, it's about 90% yes and about 10% no. I'm interested in what the 10% actually are doing. They're just staring at the TV and not doing anything else, you know. I'm sure the filmmakers love you. But most people are doing other things at the same time. And what's happening is that your attention is focused elsewhere, and then you kind of shift back and forth between the TV and other things. So attention is a scarce economy. I can never say the word. And the key thing about it is that we're human, and we can only we can only put our attention in one or two places or a few places at a time. And so what we're starting to do is we're starting to use devices. I sit on my laptop and I'm doing email and I'm chatting to people and I'm doing other stuff. And I'm watching TV. And what's happening is that every time the TV kind of says something that, or I hear something that kind of takes my attention, then I'll look up and I'll look and I'll spend about a few seconds on it and I'll go back, There is this great quote by, have you seen Seven? I've got two things about Seven here. If you've not seen Seven, you should watch Seven. It's very good. And we don't want to hit people with sledgehammer like the serial killer, John Doe says. But there's a better way of doing this. And we think it's about the tickles. It's about those little kind of signals of someone says something that makes you look up, So we did a first example, and you can listen to this online, actually. It still works, believe it or not. 5 years, it still works. At futurebroadcast.com, we did a play which will, based on your location, will base the play at that location. So we did some user testing. Most people outside of London, no criticism of London, kind of heard it and they were like, wow, this is amazing, how did this work? Actually, a woman in Glasgow jumped out of her skin because it mentioned a pub that she actually goes to, and she was asking, how does it know this? Most people in London kind of went, oh, that's a nice play, didn't really get it, what's the point? Because most of the things are based around London, at least in the UK. And that says a lot. But try it out for yourself. It's really good. We also did a documentary which will scale in length. So you can scale it from 12 minutes to 24 minutes. And you'll get a consistent documentary, but it'll leave bits out because we're using these objects and we're able to choose which objects play, which objects don't play. But it's all in a logical order. It's not like it just randomly throws stuff in. So the 12-minute version still sounds like a documentary. The 24-minute version sounds like a documentary, and everything in between. This leads me to all the stuff we've done so far has been audio. So actually Adrian said to me, well, what about video? So we tried it out and we created this drama. So the best way of explaining it is to actually show you a movie which explains it. But we can create over 50,000 variations, which is out of the same set of assets or set of objects. So there should be a video here.
Our visual perceptive media project explores how to make content that is truly personal to you, changing to suit your preferences and aspects of your personality. The process of creating this adaptive content starts with a dedicated mobile app. Through data obtained from content like your listening habits and questions about your personality, a profile is built and stored in the cloud that the Visual Perceptive Media web client can access to alter different aspects of the resulting film. The answers you give to the questions will shape the narrative flow of the film, as will aspects like your age and gender. The action may change in some scenes, or the shot may favour one character over another. Some scenes may be missing entirely. Data that reflects your general outlook will affect the appearance of the film. Meanwhile, individual media preferences, like listening history, will shape the film's score. At the moment, all the data is generated by the mobile app. However, in the future, the data could be generated by any number of services, and the object-based nature of perceptive media means it could respond to a user's mood in real time. The results are one film that can be tailored for everyone's individual preferences, and can give different repeat viewing experiences depending on factors like your location, the time of day, and your mood. New content experiences, like visual perceptive media, are only made possible by BBC R&D's research into advanced broadcast techniques, such as object-based media and IP production. The adaptive narratives are made possible by having a story made up of individual objects, which are assembled in your web browser using the app data as a guide. This approach to storytelling does not remove the creative process of filmmaking. Rather, it allows production teams to explore new modes of storytelling for diverse audiences. Visual Perceptive Media does not represent a new service. It is an example of how BBC Research and Development is examining truly new content experiences and exploring the needs and desires of BBC audiences both now and in the future. For more information on the Visual Perceptive Media project, please contact ian.forrester@bbc.co.uk.
So the key thing about it also is that it's variations, not versions. I kind of see this world as like, so if you see Interstellar, there's this thing at the end, which I won't spoil for anyone. That's how I see this all working. These variations are slight, and they change things, and they can start to create unlimited variations. It's the small things, it's the little tickles. And to give you an example, I'm going to try another video and see if this works.
We decided to test out these color grading theories with some of our own footage. We picked a shot and gave it different treatments to explore how much we could change the mood of the scene. You be the judge. Of course, it's not as important to know how to manipulate color as it is to know how color can manipulate you.
So the key thing about it is that color and music can completely change what you see and how you feel about something. That's really important, because that's what we're doing with Visual Perceptive Media. Film's been doing this for ages, so actually there was a talk last year. Disney will use different scenes for certain regions, where in the UK, for example, we got broccoli, and in, I think it was, I can't remember where it was now, they got like peas and stuff like that. Same scene, it's the same thing, there's still someone involved that's directing it, but ultimately it changed the feel, So an example of where we want to go is, so if you've seen Vanilla Sky, I will try not to spoil it if you've not. There is a scene where Tom Cruise and Penelope Cruz are walking down this snowy, slightly snowy, I think it's Brooklyn, scene. And when I saw that scene, I had like a deja vu, and I couldn't work out where it was coming from. Later on, you find out that they're using his memory to create scenes. And so when I was young, I used to flick from my mum and dad's LP collection. That sounds even older every time I say it, every year, But there was in here somewhere, there was that picture. I didn't know where, it wasn't until I actually saw it again. I was like, oh yeah, that's what my mum and dad had. Yes, they had that. And so it's about being highly relevant. So for someone in this scene, there is a box. In that box, something's highly relevant for that person. Everyone that's seen Seven knows what I'm talking about. And this is not new. This is in the kind of tech industry. This is like the stuff that Google talks about all the time. We're just applying it now to broadcast, to publishing, and to other media. So afterwards, we kind of got quite a lot of press attention. The Daily Mail always says some interesting things about the BBC, and it actually was quite a good read. And also Martin Bright wrote something which is quite interesting. It was always interesting to read, and people always took it a certain way. But the interesting part is that they took very much the female-male bias, and that was my mistake. It was meant to be. There's only two characters. One's male, one's female. It became suddenly a big storm. It wasn't meant to be. But this starts to lead into a whole bunch of stuff about data and how we ethically use this data. Because the BBC is very trusted, and I really do think that trust is something that cannot be kind of restored, if you look at what's happening with Samsung right now. And this is literally what the BBC kind of stands on. And I think if we do the wrong thing, we'll completely destroy the BBC. And that's something I do not want to be part of. So we're starting to do some research into how people understand personal data and trust, how people understand new models of data negotiation, because it's not just good enough to go, hey, look, we're really private. It's like, okay, I want to allow you to have this, but there's a negotiation involved. And also, how do you make it visual? How do you kind of make people kind of understand, we're using this in this way. Oh, you want to remove that. How do you remove that? So we're doing a lot of research around that right now, which I can talk all about if I wanted to. We did some videos, which are worth checking out. They're on YouTube, if you want to check them out. Also, another criticism from the media was, where's the shared experience? You're killing the shared experience. What's wrong with you? BBC, what are you doing? What shared experience? This shared experience? Is that your living room? Or is your living room actually, so it's too late, basically. The shared experience is dead. The shared experience was dead ages ago. Or does your living room look more like this? People on the phones, doing other stuff, not really paying attention to the TV. 90% of you, this is probably more your living room. I talked a lot about this stuff at the Quantified Self conference. It's on YouTube if you want to check it out. But the interesting part about the shared experience is that, how do you have a shared experience? So with visual perceptive media, it's one person. We want to create technology and experiences which work for multiple people, so the living room experience. So this is what I announced at Think Digital Newcastle. We brought out the radio. The radio is a physical radio which changes its script based on what's happening in the room. So, for example, if your phone goes, it hears because the microphone, and it can then go into a state of we call it neutral, or I call it neutral, where it doesn't pause, it just stops the dialogue, so the script never carries on, but the background music kind of goes quieter and just goes into a loop. And then when you're off the phone and it's back to normal, then it can carry on. No interaction needed, like magic almost. Internet of Things, everyone's doing lots of stuff around this. So if you saw the recent Google announcement, and there's the, I forgot what this thing's called, Amazon Echo, but they're all very kind of like, I want to know this, tell me this, great. Well, there's a lot more potential, and I think we're missing out on the potential there. It needs a narrative, it needs media, it needs people like the BBC and maybe you to get involved and do some interesting things with it. I think perceptive media experiences can be better than VR, more exciting than VR, and I'll explain why and how. Also, I do not want to see, if you've seen this video, it's horrible, it's AR, VR, mixed reality, it's horrible. We do not want to see that. I'm sure some people will do that with kind of perceptive media type experiences, but we don't want to be a part of that. We want to create hyper reality experiences. What I mean by that is that the objects around you are working together in tandem to do or to be part of an experience with your permission, obviously. So you imagine, so in my home, I've got hue lights as well. You can imagine you're watching a documentary and there's a film, and the hue lights kind of dim at certain points. The character makes a phone call, your phone call, you pick up the phone and it's that character on the screen. These are the experiences that we can do. And it's all happening local to your network because it's all being delivered and done client-side. There's no server-side nonsense going on, which makes it ultimately very scalable as well. Another example, that documentary with scales, rather than it be you listen to a podcast for 45 minutes, maybe because Google now knows, or Siri knows, where you're going, it knows how you're getting there, then it could fit within that time. These are the kind of magical experiences that this can enable. We just created the cake, the cook-along something experience. I forgot what it's called. They're gonna kill me for that. The cook-along kitchen experience, of course. And so the idea is that this thing is like someone cooking alongside you. So like your mum or your dad helping you. So it's working to your time rather than you are working to what Jamie Oliver, the expert chef, is doing. The nice thing about it is that right now it's just kind of, you kind of press and you go to the next one, but ultimately it will be based on the objects and the slicing and stuff like that, you know. But ultimately, it's about learning and about the learning experience and putting things in front of you which work, rather than just kind of throwing you in at the deep end. So we think that storytelling was always participatory, and we want you to join us. We're very open. Everything we've done is completely open source. We're a public broadcaster. You own us, right? We're throwing it out there. We want you to join us. We've got a community of, I forgot the community, but we've got a community that we're trying to build. This is what happens when you're on stage. It's like not good. But we want you to join us. If you are interested in anything I've said, or you want to know more, please come and talk to me. I've got a few cards and everything. If you look for Perceptive Media, you'll find loads of stuff. And my time is up, so thank you very much.